Good day, everyone. Thank you for attending this webinar. I'm pretty sure you're all excited to know some of the digital apps that you can use in online learning. And to start off, this is going to be my presentation outline. So I'll talk about digital apps in education, major considerations, interesting technology, the summer model, and use of digital apps in learning. And these are the objectives for today. So first, for you to be able to identify digital apps that can be used effectively in an online blended learning environment and design a learning plan using digital apps that maximize students' learning. So I'm pretty sure that, okay, teachers know a lot of online tools because we have already you have already been through this pandemic for 2 years, 2 school years. And the teachers were able to adjust using digital applications like Padlet. And of course, there are other digital apps that are available online that are free, and some are paid or you have to subscribe. But again, it takes creativity, all right, knowledge of content, and of course, what else? The knowledge on what materials to prepare, what learning activities are necessary to be able to maximize students' learning. So here are some of the digital apps that we can use. But what is really a digital app? It only means an educational tool that teachers can use to develop critical thinking and collaboration among students. And in order for us to use technology effectively in the classroom, particularly in a blended learning or online learning, the first thing to remember is, the teacher must be guided by the learning competencies or objectives in designing a learning activity that uses technology or digital app. Next, lesson content. You have to identify what particular topic requires this application of technology. So there, let's say you want to measure students' ability to compose essays effectively. You can actually use what digital application. Um, One can be blogger.com, so the students can post their essays in blogs. Another one, they can also use what else? Facebook. Facebook is just a social media platform where they can post their essays. So, what is the learning content? What's the lesson about? Next one, students' age and intellectual level. Of course, you cannot use CoSpaces for for grade 1. So CoSpaces is difficult to create. I'll tell you why. Because a student, or the student needs uh, to be able to read um, those features. All right, they actually have to be digital natives to be able to create their own projects using CoSpaces. Later on, I'll discuss that a little further. And then next one, you have to consider whether that activity will engage students. Uh, will it be interactive? Will it make them work collaboratively and think critically? So there, will there be maximum learning? Because studies show that when students are engaged in learning activities, then learning takes place. The fifth one is accessibility. Well, there's a need for internet connections in some of the, when they use digital apps. So are your students, um, how do you call this? Are the parents have do the parents have resources? So they have money to buy or to subscribe to internet uh, to internet provider, so like smart like that. They have it needs, of course, they need money to be able to subscribe to an internet provider, no? And then, of course, ease of use. Will the digital tools that you will introduce to your classes easy to use? Can they explore this on their own if you give them the basics on how to use them? Can they explore? Can they understand the features? Can they understand the procedures or the steps on how to create their own projects, let's say using CoSpaces or Spatial, or can they come up with a video on their own? Of course, many students can create their videos already. So, what is a digital application? This is an online tool that teachers can use to develop critical and thinking skills, right? And as we said, those are applications, no, that are available online, that can be that are accessible, that are easy to use, but there are paid accounts. So but sometimes when you not all diba, digital apps are actually free. They sometimes you have to subscribe, no, to these digital tools. But there are some digital tools with two types of accounts, free account and then paid account. And some of them are, what's Padlet, what else? CoSpaces. But there are other platforms that are free, like Jamboard, that's free. It is integrated in Google. Okay, so what's the basis? Now let me just discuss this summer model, which is the basis of your use of technology, which was developed by Dr. Ruben Pentedora. What is this summer model? So this is a paradigm or a framework where teachers, wherein teachers can be guided on how to use technology. There are 4 steps. So it's like a ladder. The first one, which is substitution, is the lowest. So this is it comes here in the first rung. If it is a ladder, it's in the first rung. Second is augmentation. Why? Because in substitution, it only develops lower level thinking skills. So let's say, for instance, if you, for example, ask your students to write an essay, in a conventional classroom or setting, the students use paper and pen to write an essay. However, when we talk about substitution, you introduce technology for the same purpose of writing an essay, but there is no functional change. You just transfer or use a laptop to transfer that activity of writing an essay, and there's no change in terms of the function. It's just an essay written or typed. But in the second level or phase of the summer model, it's still a substitute, no, substitute for that activity, the traditional activity like in essay writing, but there are um, there are there are functional improvements. Now, for instance, instead of just typing your the essay in your laptop, then the student or you, for example, you tell your student to use GDocs, and in that GDocs there are some functions like spelling check and then grammar check, right? So there is a built-in grammar checker. So this is an automatic checking of your grammar. So that is invented by Google. And you can also share that, tell your student to share with a peer or with his peer, and to collaboratively, critique each other's work. But prior to, as I said, prior to giving them the task of giving peer feedback, they have to be oriented first on what to do. It has to be clear on them, or
It's
rather
7
clear
o'clock.
to them, that they need to be guided by rules. It has to be constructive criticism, no negative comments. The purpose here is to help each other in improving the composition or essay. All right, so in augmentation, there is a new function introduced. So it has technology has augmented, right? It has added feature, which is spell grammar check, spelling check, and of course shared document, which can be critiqued by classmates. And for the third level, so which calls for the development of students' analysis and of course critical thinking. This is modification. It allows the students, to to use technology for a redesigned task. Okay, for instance, using the same project, which is essay, the student can work collaboratively with his peers in coming up with an essay through shared G document or G docs, and they can collaboratively write online. So by just sharing the Google document, so through email or by giving the link and then giving access to everyone who are involved in the group. So instead of the traditional, writing of essay collaboratively on a paper, during the face-to-face meeting, but in the modification stage or level in the summer model, the students are grouped together, let's say in a group of 3 or 4 members, and then they share document where they can collaboratively write an essay. And then the last one is redefinition, which is actually the highest level in the summer model. Technology allows for the creation of new tasks previously inconceivable. Now, the same project, which is essay, can be uploaded to or can be posted to blogger.com. So you can tell your students to create an account in blogger.com and then post the essays. So if they have written, for example, 2 or 3 essays, then they compiled it there, and they can embed the essay with photos or videos. That is actually a complete, how do you call this? This is a project which is complete there is a complete transformation from an ordinary essay, um, or typewritten essay. It has actually been published online with a wide audience, which is the world, and that is the definition. And it has transformed, or redesigned that task for students. Okay, so here are the major considerations in using technology. I think I have already mentioned this earlier, and we and the use of technology, we have to consider those 4 levels, that we should not only use technology just as a substitute for the activity that can be done on through face to face, or that can be done traditionally, like written essay and then transfer is typewritten essay. But you use technology to make the students think critically, and that is the purpose of this. So I think I have already explained this earlier. So you can also make them do a storytelling by and record it through a video. All right, and then moving on. So let's have here a sample e-blog from my students. So as you can see here, you have the table of contents and then the cover letter, which is actually a reflection of their learnings. So I asked them some questions like, what did you learn in this course? The course is communication, so this is composition writing. And then the students are asked also to identify their weaknesses and how to address those weaknesses. Next one, you have before they made their essays, I told them to make an outline, and then the student embedded that outline with the photo, so that is actually the definition. So that's a sample. Okay, we're not going to watch the video. I'll send this video to your email. All right. And these are some digital apps which you can use in your classes, like Padlet, Jamboard, and Pear Deck. What else? So you also have Kahoot, Quizzes, and GoSpace. So those are 6 digital apps which you can use in your classes. This is a sample learning activity using Padlet. I asked my students to write the properties of a well-written text. I introduced this activity prior to discussing the lesson on this properties of a well-written text. And then I also use this in my training workshop, wherein I asked the teachers to write so their understanding of multidisciplinary approach. I asked these questions after discussing multidisciplinary approach to them. And then how do you envision your students? So this is a vision. So if you're going to introduce multidisciplinary approach to them, how do you think, so what do you think will happen to them? What skills will be developed in them? And what are those challenges that you'll encounter in using this approach? So when we talk about multidisciplinary approach, it's just merely introducing other disciplines in your lesson. It's an integrative approach that when you're discussing, for example, English, you can get the content in history, like the fight between Magellan and Lapu-Lapu, and then discuss this in your English class, so that's history. And you can also talk about the values there, the culture of the Filipinos, so that's still history. And then you can still use, aside from English, aside from history, you may also introduce art there. How? So consider the fashion, the type of clothes that Filipinos wear during the time war, the type of clothes that they wore during the time, and actually you can actually tell them to sketch. That's art, isn't it? Um, and well, you can integrate other subjects in your lesson. That's actually multidisciplinary, and I asked them also to um, what to list down the strategies that they will use in order to maximize students' learning. And this is another application that I gave my students. And prior to the class, or prior to the discussion or class discussion, um, I asked them to think about what comes to mind when they hear critical reading, and then they have to write all those words that they can think of that they can think of, which can be associated with critical reading. So by the way, before we go to that, we can teach them. So if you can actually, this Jamboard can be easily seen, which this is well, how do I do that? Maybe later, before I end my presentation, I can show you where you can find Jamboard in Google. Um, so you can just go to your G Drive, and you can see there. Yeah, not G Drive. So well later I'll show you. But you can teach your students how to use this. You have the pen. These are the tools that they can use. You have text box to you have the shapes here, which can be used to present a graphical organizer like this. Okay, moving on, let's have the Pear Deck. So this is the teacher screen. When did Russia start the invasion? This is the student screen. And you can tell them to answer this. I'll give this to you. Um, I'll give a video of this Pear Deck to you. So no problem with that. You can just watch it separately. But I'm just introducing to you what that it can be used in math subject as well. So you have your problem solving, and then you can show your class these particular options. And you can also use it in literature. And you have this, you can tell the students to write their answers. This is a blank space, but I type my answer there. But I also have given you, so this
Good day,
one,
everyone.
yeah,
Today
this
I'm
one
going to present
is
to you
my
how.
the video that I'm going to share to you. So I'm not going to present it here. And here is another app which you can use, and that is Kahoot. All right. So this is Kahoot. You can use it as an assessment to measure students' learning. You can create your own quiz, and you can just go to the dash. You just type Kahoot.com, and then you create your own account, register, and then log in, and you can see this dashboard you create, and then you just follow the instructions. And when you are done creating, you can just see then um, you can set the time here for how long will they take it, each number. So this is 30 seconds, and then you can start the quiz. This is the pin that you're going to, this is the game pin that you can show them. And while waiting for the player, so their names will appear here, and then start. I'll give you also the link to my quizzes in Kahoot, so that you can have a sample Kahoot quiz. And you can also use quizzes. There are several quizzes that you can choose from, um, in math, in science, and you just read the topic, and you can tell your students to, you can click it and give the link to your class. And yeah, so this is my this is CoSpaces. This is the project that I made. I'll also give you a video for this, so that you can watch my video and find out how CoSpaces can be done. This is the second CoSpace project that I made. So, so you have the text, you have the elephant, and you have the speech of the. So this is the thought bubble, and then so this is the sample Jurassic Museum that I showed you earlier, and you have this. Uh, yeah, you have this. Yeah, I'll show you. I have shown you in the video how to use it, but you have, when you create your own account, you can see this dashboard. You have gallery. You can create your own class. Then this one is CoSpaces. So this is the two CoSpace projects that I made. You can just type or create space, and you can watch the video on how my own video on how you can come up with your own co-space project, and which you can ask your students to do. So this one is the video that I sent you, but I'm not going to anymore play that. So another activity that you can tell your class is yes to open an account in blogger.com, or before there is also Tumblr. I'm not sure if Tumblr is still okay now. I mean, so you can tell them to post their essays uh, their in their blogs. And I have discussed this earlier. These are the activities that you can do for the motivation section of your lesson. So remember, in terms of lesson development, you start your lesson with the motivation, which is activating prior knowledge, and then lesson presentation. You present your lesson for the day, your objectives, and then you discuss, and then you apply. Then you tell the students to apply the lessons learned. For motivation, activating prior knowledge, you can use Padlet here. Review questions. You can type your questions there. You can use Jamboard. You can use also Kahoot. And then you can use Pear Deck. Um, Next one, for the discussion part of your lesson, for every chunk of your lesson, you can pause and tell your class to write their answers or responses in the chat box. Let's say, for example, you're done discussing what critical reading is, what are the skills required for critical reading. These are the skills like evaluation, analysis, and then give them an activity. So is this particular question developing your analytical thinking skill? and then type in the chat box yes or no. Another question can be asked this way: can you think of a question that will develop, let's say, higher level thinking skills? Example, evaluation question, analysis questions. Analysis, diba, you break down the whole into parts. One question it can be asked like this: so what's the theme of the story? So it's, what else? You break the story into parts so that you can arrive at the theme. So what can you infer, um, based on what can you infer in what character trait does the character exhibit, with this particular incident or event in the story? Okay, that's Socratic method. And then you can use also Padlet for the middle of the discussion, or Jamboard or Pear Deck. You can ask them to work by group using any of these digital apps. You can make them, after the lesson, you can make them synthesize the lesson by asking them to come up with a graphic organizer or a concept web using Padlet. And for application, again, you can tell them, you can present a case study or a problem to be solved, or they can answer using Jamboard or Padlet, or they can do a project-based um, activity, or it can be advocacy project using CoSpaces. It can also be a blog. All right, they can use Canva to make a magazine. So, and then magazine, for instance, in history class, you want to document what happened in Ukraine, and you want your students to write a news event about that and come up with a newsletter, or some kind of a paper, or how do you call that? It's like a broadsheet wherein they have to lay out their own articles. They come up with the photos that are that are free, so they can look for pictures in Pixabay. Tell them that there are copyright issues, so they get pictures from Pixabay. There are pictures that are free that they can download without any without getting punished, right, for plagiarism. um, Next one is panel discussion. You can tell them to come up with panel discussion or role playing, and the they have to record while they are doing the panel discussion. They can also do a role play and record online, so they can do that. They can record their own parts and then let somebody put them together, and or edit and come up with the movie, or let's say a video. And then, well, the technology is very useful, but then you have to consider your content, and of course your pedagogy. How you teach is again more important than technology. If you don't know how to teach, you just keep on giving activities that use technology, but your lesson development is not seamless from the motivation down to the application, then it will be useless even if you use technology. So there are three major considerations that you have to remember. You have to be good in content, your lesson content. You have to be good in pedagogy, the art of teaching, organizing your lesson from the objectives up from the motivation also down to the application. And you have also to be good in terms of using technology, that you can use or integrate this digital app seamlessly in your own discussion. And to be able to do that, you need to have, of course, you need to be techie savvy, or technology savvy, to be able to integrate seamlessly the digital tools in your activities. So we have to do that. Why? Because we need to care about our learners' progress, and to be able to show our love for our students so that they can maximize their learning. We have to be careful in designing our learning activities and assessments. And once these activities are designed using digital tools, we need to implement these learning activities again seamlessly in our lesson presentation. And then after that, we take note of the students' behavior, their participation. Are they active in class? Do they learn much when you use this technology? We have to implement we have to evaluate the implementation of the digital tools, and we have to evaluate our own lesson presentation that integrates technology into your own classroom. And if it's not engaging, if the students do not learn, then you need to improve your lesson presentation. And finally, to end my sharing, my talk, let's have this quote. Children must be taught how to think, not what to think, according to Margaret Mead. So, in using technology, we need to make sure that our students are developing critical thinking skills, because if they become critical thinkers, then they will become good citizens of this country, who will not only believe in what other people say, who will not believe